I remember the night vividly, even though I wish I could forget. It was a chilly autumn evening, and I was walking home from work. I live in a small town, so the streets were mostly deserted, with only the occasional car passing by. The orange glow of the streetlights cast eerie shadows, and the air was thick with the scent of fallen leaves. There was a strange stillness in the air, a quiet that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I had heard the urban legend of the Slit-Mouthed Woman, or Kuchisake-onna, as the locals called her. People said she was a vengeful spirit, with a mouth slit from ear to ear, who roamed the streets at night. According to the legend, she would ask you if she was beautiful, and no matter how you answered, your fate was sealed. I never believed in such things. They were just stories, right? As I walked, I noticed a figure standing under one of the streetlights up ahead. It was a woman dressed in a long coat and a surgical mask, the kind people wear when they're sick. I thought it was odd, but not alarming. People wore masks sometimes, especially during flu season. As I got closer, the woman turned to face me. Her eyes were dark and intense, almost as if they could see right through me. I felt a chill run down my spine, but I tried to brush it off. She was probably just waiting for someone. When I was about to pass her, she stepped into my path. "Am I beautiful?" she asked, her voice soft but eerie. I froze, remembering the stories. I didn't want to be rude, so I nodded. "Yes, you are." She reached up and removed her mask, revealing her face. My blood ran cold. Her mouth was grotesquely slit from ear to ear, the wounds raw and jagged. She smiled, a horrible, twisted grin that sent a wave of terror through me. "How about now?" she asked, her voice dripping with malice. I tried to back away, my mind racing for a way out. "Yes," I stammered. "You're still beautiful." Her smile widened impossibly. "Liar," she hissed, her voice now a guttural snarl. Before I could react, she lunged at me, her hand moving faster than I could see. I felt a sharp pain across my cheek, and warm blood began to trickle down my face. I stumbled back, clutching my wound, and turned to run. My heart pounded in my chest as I sprinted down the street, the sound of her footsteps echoing behind me. I didn't dare look back. I knew she was right there, her malevolent presence close on my heels. I rounded a corner and saw a small convenience store up ahead. The lights were still on, and I prayed it was open. I burst through the door, startling the clerk behind the counter. "Help me," I gasped. "Please, help me." The clerk looked up, confusion turning to horror as he saw the blood on my face. He hurried around the counter, locking the door behind me. "What happened?" he asked, his voice shaking. I tried to explain, but the words wouldn't come. All I could do was point to the street outside, where the slit-mouthed woman now stood, staring at me through the glass door. Her eyes were filled with a cold, unforgiving hatred. The clerk grabbed the phone and called the police, but I knew it was too late. The legend said she couldn't be stopped, that she would haunt you until she got what she wanted. I backed away from the door, feeling the weight of her gaze pressing down on me. The police arrived quickly, their lights flashing as they pulled up to the store. They didn't see her at first, but then one of the officers caught sight of her. He stepped out of the car, his hand on his gun. "Ma'am, step away from the door," he commanded. She didn't move, just stood there with that awful, twisted grin. The officer approached cautiously, but as he got closer, She vanished, disappearing into the night like a wisp of smoke. They searched the area, but found no trace of her. They took my statement, but I could tell they didn't believe me. How could they? It sounded insane. I went home that night, but I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that horrifying smile etched into my mind. Days turned into weeks, and the wound on my cheek healed, but the fear never left me. I started to see her everywhere, in the reflection of a store window, in the shadows of my room at night. She was always there, watching, waiting. I knew she would never leave me alone. The slit-mouthed woman had chosen me, and there was no escape. I moved to a different town, hoping to outrun her, but it was no use. She followed me, her presence a constant reminder of that fateful night. I live in fear, always looking over my shoulder, knowing that one day she will come for me again. Every night, I check the locks on my doors and windows, hoping it will keep her out. But deep down, I know it's futile. You can't lock out a spirit. I've taken to sleeping with the lights on. The brightness, a small comfort in the oppressive darkness that fills my life. Sometimes, I hear her voice, soft and eerie, whispering in my ear. "Am I beautiful?" she asks, and I squeeze my eyes shut, trying to block out the sound. But it doesn't help. The question echoes in my mind, a relentless reminder of the nightmare that has become my reality. I've stopped going out at night. The fear is too great. Even in the daytime, I feel her presence, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the moment when she can strike again. My friends and family think I'm losing my mind. Maybe I am. But I know what I saw. I know she's real. I've done my research, trying to find a way to rid myself of her. I've spoken to shamans, priests, anyone who might have a solution. But no one can help me. They all say the same thing. Once she's chosen you, there's no escape. The best I can hope for is to avoid her for as long as possible. One evening, I decided to visit a renowned psychic in a neighboring town. Desperation had driven me to seek help wherever I could find it. The psychic's parlor was dimly lit, filled with the scent of incense and strange artifacts. She listened quietly as I recounted my tale, her eyes narrowing with concern. When I finished, she sighed deeply. "The slit-mouthed woman is a restless spirit, driven by anger and sorrow," she explained. "She preys on fear and uncertainty. Your best chance is to show no fear, to confront her with calm and resolve." Her words offered little comfort. How could I possibly face such a horror without fear? But I had no other options. That night, I steeled myself, determined to confront the slit-mouthed woman if she appeared again. Around midnight, as I sat in my living room, the lights flickering ominously, I heard a soft tapping at the window. My heart raced, but I forced myself to remain calm. Slowly, I turned to face the source of the sound. There she was, standing just outside, her ghastly smile illuminated by the pale moonlight. She seemed more sinister than ever, her eyes filled with a cold, predatory intelligence. I took a deep breath and walked to the window, my legs trembling, but my resolve firm. I opened the window, and she leaned in, her face inches from mine. "Am I beautiful?" she whispered, her breath cold against my skin. I met her gaze, refusing to look away. "You were once," I replied evenly, "but your anger has twisted you. You need to let go." For a moment, she looked taken aback, as if my response had caught her off guard. Her expression wavered, the malevolent gleam in her eyes dimming slightly. But then, her smile returned, more terrifying than before. "Liar," she hissed, but there was a hint of uncertainty in her voice. I stood my ground, refusing to show fear. "You can hurt me, but it won't change anything. You need to find peace." She snarled, her features contorting with rage. For a moment, I thought she would attack, but then she stepped back, her form flickering like a candle flame. With one last, hateful glare, she vanished into the night. The relief was overwhelming, but I knew it wasn't over. She would return, and I would need to confront her again. The psychic's advice had given me a way to fight back, but it was a battle I would have to fight every day. Months passed, and the encounters became less frequent, though the fear never fully left me. I learned to carry on with my life, always vigilant, always prepared. The Slit-Mouthed Woman was a shadow that lingered on the edge of my existence, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurks in the world. My friends and family noticed the change in me. I became more reserved, more cautious. They asked questions, but I couldn't tell them the truth. How could I explain something so horrifying, so unbelievable? I carried the burden alone, hoping that one day I might find a way to be free. Late one night, as I was getting ready for bed, I felt a sudden chill in the air. The room grew unnaturally cold, and the lights flickered before going out entirely. My heart sank, and I knew she was here. I stood in the darkness, waiting, listening. Her voice came from behind me, soft and chilling. "Am I beautiful?" I turned slowly, meeting her gaze once more. "You can find peace," I said firmly, "if you let go of your anger." She stepped closer, her smile twisted with both malice and a strange sadness. "Peace," she whispered, as if the concept were foreign to her. I nodded, my fear tempered by a growing sense of empathy. "Yes, peace. You don't have to suffer anymore." For a long moment, she stared at me, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she began to fade, her form becoming translucent. "Maybe," she murmured, her voice distant and echoing. And then she was gone, leaving me standing alone in the darkness. The room warmed, the lights flickered back on, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I breathed a sigh of relief. I knew it wasn't a permanent solution, but it was a step towards something better. The Slit-Mouthed Woman might return, but now I had hope. Hope that one day she would find the peace she so desperately needed, and I could finally be free of her haunting presence. So, if you ever find yourself walking alone at night and you see a woman with a surgical mask, be careful. She might ask you a simple question, but how you answer could mean the difference between life and death. And remember, no matter what you say, she will always come for you in the end. Pray that you never see her. Pray that you never hear her ask, "Am I beautiful?" Because once you do, your life will never be the same.